What's up, guys? Let's do some more SQL. So the question is apples and oranges. Here we have a sales table, and the sales table has the sales date, fruit, and the sold number. So sales date and fruit is our primary key, and each row contains the type of fruit, the sales date, and the amount that was sold. So it only contains apples and oranges per day, and the problem is asking us to report the difference between the number of apples and oranges sold each day, and we want to order it by the sale date. So here's an example. Here we have our sales table. Here's one day. Here we have apples and oranges. Here we have another day, and another day, and another day. And here we have our output. So as you can see, apples and oranges, the difference is obviously 2 here. Difference here is 0. Difference here is 20. Difference here is -1, which is what we're getting here. And so let's talk about how we would do this question, right? So there's definitely multiple ways that we could do this. One way is to use joins somehow. So what we could do is we could build one table just for the apples, another table just for the oranges, and then join those two tables on the sale date, and then calculate the differences between them. So basically, we could do, for our first table, we could just do a select, the sale date, and the amount sold, and do a where fruit equals apples, right? And then the second table, we do something similar, but we say oranges, and then we could join those two tables on our sale date, right? And then we could group our table correctly and then order it, right? So let's just go ahead and start coding this, and hopefully this will make more sense to you. So here's our editor. So let's start with building our initial tables. So here we're going to do select, and we could do sales, sale date, and then we could say sales dot sold number from sales where fruit equals apples. Let's take a look at that. So here we have what our table then looks like. So this is like per day, and as you can see in our example, we have 10, 15, 20, 15, and it's not really mentioned in the problem, but we only have one row for apples and one row for oranges per day. So hopefully that makes more sense. So 10, 15, 20, 15, right? And then we could do another table for oranges. And as you can see, we get 8, 15, 0. Whoops, should be called oranges, not orange. 8, 15, 0, and I guess there's a 16 in there. Yeah, 16. Okay. So now what we could do is we could do a join between these two tables. So let's go ahead and do that. So we do select, and then we could say A we'll call our first table A, and then we could do our difference, so sold number minus B, how many ever oranges were sold, and we'll call that the difference from, and then we could do our subquery from this, and then we could do a join, so call this apples, join, and then we'll join it on our sales date. Let's name our tables A as B, and then we'll do A.salesDate equals B.salesDate, and then we'll group it, because in aggregations you do need to group it. So A.salesDate, A.sold number, B.sold number, and then order it. In the question, it wants us to order it by the sale date. So let's just run that. Oh, let's see what's wrong here. Sale date, not sales date. And this looks right. So this method is correct. Let's talk about another way to do this, which I think is a little bit more intuitive, and that is to use an aggregation function like sum. So let's go ahead and do that. So the idea behind this query is that we should use a case statement, and we should sum our apples and oranges to get our difference, and we should group it by the sale date, right? So let's just go ahead and do that. We could do sales, sale date, and then we could do a sum and then a case statement, right? So because you can either get apples and that should be positive, but if you have more oranges, that should be negative, right? So hopefully I'll type this out and hopefully this makes more sense. So we could say sales.fruit equals apples, then we'll do sales.sold number, and then else we will do a negative amount of that. So every type of fruit, if it's an apple, then it'll be in the positive direction, otherwise it'll go in a negative direction, and that'll be our diff. And then we'll say from sales, then we can group it by our sales date, and then order by, and let's see how this looks. Let's see. Oh, okay, let's run this, and this also works. Again, I like the second method a little bit better. We don't have to do any crazy joins. And I think in terms of aggregation, this makes a little bit more sense. So hopefully you learned something. Thanks for watching.